to the pilot episode of my new podcast series, The Best Thing to Design is You. It's time. Time to think about yourself. It sounds absolutely audacious and almost vain, doesn't it? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is facials and massages and weekend escapes or something. And while all of those indulgences are fun, they're not really effective long term. They're really only quick fixes, low-hanging fruit, if you will. I mean, what are you really doing for you, deep down? I think women have this catch-22 where we just love to nurture and then kind of feel guilty when we walk away for a bit. And then we end up getting frustrated when we've left ourselves behind. It seems to happen at home and in the workplace. You know, we feel bitchy and demanding when we suddenly start to arc up. Does that sound familiar? I know it's happened to me. And I remember specifically when my son was really young, like, I don't know, maybe 18 months, 2 years, I can't recall. But I remember going out shopping and literally racing around for about an hour. I'd intended to go out for the afternoon, but I thought, no, I've just got to get home. Only to get home and find that, yes, the house was completely upside down, but everyone was perfectly happy. He hadn't fallen off the kitchen bench or eaten damp rid from the closet or anything like that. But still, I persisted with this guilt thing, this sort of mother guilt, if you will, and it all began, if it hadn't started before, but that was a specific moment, of not looking after me. So even in the corporate work environment, especially when I was in the male-dominated automotive world, I was often the only woman in the room. And it took me a long time to work out that fine line between strength and bitchiness. I found it, but it wasn't easy. In that particular case, what worked was making sure I did my homework, so my ideas were absolutely thorough, never presenting purely on intuition. That just certainly didn't work. What I learned to do there was to look after myself, find a way to be true to me and passionate about what I was doing, and not become someone that I wasn't, albeit very tempting in those environments. And as a mother, similar patterns arise, but they just present differently. Lisa O'Neill, a thought leader, author, and friend of mine, tells a story of how one day she just decided to stop packing lunches. Her 4 kids complained, and it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks until they finally learned, and they stopped eating just peanut butter or whatever they could muster up, and they started to do it themselves. And you know what? They lived. She laughs and says, they sort of lived on crap for a while, but they lived. And she likes to talk about doing things that you love and giving up the things that you hate. Do the things that make you feel good. Now, what a concept. What a concept. So obviously, if there's things that you can outsource or just stop doing, don't do them. And if there's things you love, find those little pockets of perfect that she calls them. Little things that you love. And I don't think it has to be all that indulgent. You just need to figure out what they are. For me personally, I had another breakthrough. So the corporate thing was probably one subtle way of doing for me and looking after myself. Not a terribly good example, but still there. But the big breakthrough moment I had a few years back was at a pretty tragic time in my life. But nonetheless, it happened, and I know exactly the point. My husband, unfortunately, had taken his own life, and it was a very terrible time, to say the least. I was desperately trying to keep it together around the house, with work, everything else that was going on, and most especially to keep things as normal as possible for my son. Right? So I was sort of going, everything's normal. We're all going to be right. We were getting ready for a tennis tournament early one morning, and the prep for that was absolutely crazy. It was multiple stringed rackets, changes of clothes, multiple socks, protein, all the right food. and of course directions to some very hard to find venue, and no sat nav, of course. And he's dragging his heels, as children do. And I'm starting to feel the pressure of having to get him there on time and everything else going on, doing it all by myself. And I kept saying, come on, let's go, asking nicely, come on. And I'm standing in the kitchen holding a glass of water in my hand. And it's a glass. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, it's going to go. It's going to go. I could feel it. And I turned around and just boom, like threw it at the wall and thought, what just happened? And the look on his face. Oh my goodness. I said, I just need a minute. I'll be right back. And I left the room. And when I come back, he's cleaning it all up with a broom and a dustpan, sort of wet glass. At that moment, I knew I had to get help. And I did. I started to work on me. It became screamingly obvious that without helping myself, I was going to be no good to anyone else. So, with over 20 years in the world of design, it occurred to me slowly that the best thing to do and the best thing to design right now was myself. I have designed corporate interiors for the likes of A&P, Boston Consulting, Sony. The list goes on. I've created international carpet ranges from Milliken, Interface, Tredford, Edwardstown. I was responsible for all the color and materials on the Ford Ranger. I've been designing things for everybody else for a long time. But now I embarked on a journey of redesigning me. And I have never looked back from that point. Now, after hitting rock bottom, it was truly time to change. So what I'd like to ask you is, what will your tipping point be? You don't have to hit rock bottom to get there. You may have, you may not. But what is that thing that's going to click inside of you that's going to say, it's time to focus on me? What is it going to take to really stop for a moment and think and start working on you? Do you need a full renovation or perhaps just a minor lift? I still like to think of these things in design terms. And to be honest, it's actually really exciting and completely liberating. Stop doing the crap you hate and start doing the things you love. Everyone around you will survive. Now I spend my life helping people to do just that. I've written 2 books, Get, Better, Smarter, Stronger, and Vive, Transform Yourself into Something Amazing. I mentor privately and I speak to large groups about turning adversity into power, the 4 stages of growth, not grief, and how to focus on yourself unselfishly. I want you to believe and really get deep in your heart that the best thing to design is you. And guess what? This is the really cool bit. Everyone around you will respect you for it. Let me show you how. Join my tribe at debrapascoe.com or just listen if that's more comfortable for you. Whatever suits. Either way, thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been beneficial, and there's a lot more to come in this series.